Hey guys, welcome back to I'm an Actor, Not a Therapist. I'm Sammy. So, what's going on? I wanted to talk about something that we don't generally think about or talk about. We just kind of let it happen. And that's anniversary dates. We all have dates that we dread, that we don't want to think about, that, hope don't come. But of course they're going to, right? That's what time is. At some point, it's going to come. But I think the important thing that we need to talk about is what do we do on those days, right? How are we going to handle days like that? And I'm not talking about good anniversaries, obviously. Things like that last conversation you had with a friend before you decided that you guys can't work anymore, or the day that that person passed away, or the anniversary of your first day of work at the job you had for however long before they suddenly laid you off. Days like that are hard, and we don't want to talk about them, and we don't want to deal with them. There are kind of three options at that point. Either we wallow in the day, which is not productive at all. We go through the day like it's a completely normal day, and then feel our feelings later, right? Or we take a step back and we take a mental health day. And of those three options, because I'm coming up to one of those dates, of those three options, I've decided personally for myself to take a mental health day. Now, what does this look like? Well, for everybody, it looks different, right? Any kind of mental health day, any type of self-care day is going to look different for everybody. You could go to the store and do retail therapy. You could take a long hot bath. You could treat yourself to coffee instead of making it at home. There are many different ways for us to take care of ourselves in moments like this. For me, my plan is to get up, go down the street, get a bagel, have a cup of coffee, take a few breaths, maybe journal a little bit about my feelings for the day, and then see where the day takes me. I have nowhere to go. I have nothing to do. So maybe it'll be a long drive. Maybe it'll be going to the mall and walking around. Maybe it'll be doing a live. Who knows? Maybe I won't be on social media at all throughout the day. And that's okay too. We talk about taking breaks from social media so that you can deal with life stuff. Well, this is the kind of life stuff that we're talking about when we say that, right? This is the kind of stuff. This is those moments where we have to take those breaths and disconnect a little maybe. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's very healthy. And that is a form of self-care that is worth exploring when trying to handle a day with big feelings like this. It becomes something that needs to happen in order for you to get through the day, right? I also think it's important to acknowledge that you performing whatever kind of self-care you're going to is not you avoiding the feelings that are being brought up that day. It is you honoring the day, at least in my opinion, safely. It is you taking care of yourself on the anniversary of a day that you may not have had that option in that moment. If it's a new job, you had to get to work. If it was the passing of a loved one, you had to be with family and you had to do the necessary steps to get through that in that moment. If it's the last conversation that you had with a friend, you obviously saw the friend that day. Maybe. And those are the memories that'll come up. Those are the things that will be constantly running through you that day. And if you don't take care of it, if you don't take some time for yourself, whatever that looks like, you run into the risk of not being completely present for those around you or for yourself on the date of the anniversary. And I'm not saying don't feel your feelings. I'm not saying that at all. I want you to feel your feelings. The queen of feelings are icky, and I'm still trying to figure out how to feel them, is telling you to feel your feelings. Because I think that if you don't feel your feelings in moments like this, what ends up happening is you compartmentalize, you internalize, and it will come up just in a different way, and probably not in a positive way, not in a way that's going to be productive, not in a way that's going to serve you well, not in a way that's going to enhance your life, right? So in these times, in these moments like this, feel the feelings and then figure out how to process them. It could be journaling. It could be reaching out to a friend or family member or therapist and flat out saying, I don't know what to do about these feelings. I need to talk them out. And then doing so, it could be, if you're a creative, it could be channeling it back into your creativity. I know we've talked about that on here before, channeling your feelings, your stress, your anxiety back into your work. That could very well be something that you do, but something to make it so that those feelings are honored, but that you are safe in those feelings. I know that on the specific date that I'm thinking of, that I'm coming up against here soon, I know that there's going to be a lot of feelings. I know that there will be, because it's the first anniversary, and first anniversaries are hard. They are hard because all of those feelings that some of them you might not even know you're feeling will come up, and they'll come up 10 times more intensely than you even realize they will. You'll go, oh, I'll be fine. It's going to be hard. I know that, but I'm going to be fine. And then the day starts and you don't feel right. And it's all that's on your mind, and you have all these feelings, and the next thing you know, you're crying on your couch. And there's nothing wrong with crying. It's very healthy. It is a way of feeling your feelings and letting them go. But, it's something, what I'm basically trying to say here in all this is that you have to feel your feelings, or they're going to manifest differently in not a great way, or in not a way that you necessarily want them to. We don't want to cry. We don't want to cry, but we do, because it's a release of feelings and it feels darn good afterwards. It just sucks in that moment that you're actually crying. So I encourage you to allow yourself to feel the feelings and then figure out what to do with them. I know that sometimes what helps people learning to feel their feelings, because believe me, it's something that I'm still learning how to do, is actually walking through the feeling. So one of the feelings I could feel during the anniversary date that I'm coming up against could be resentment. And okay, why do I feel the resentment? What can I do with this feeling? How is it affecting me right now? And you start untangling the feeling and processing the feeling. And processing a feeling and internalizing a feeling are very different. And there's a very fine line, and it took me a little while to figure out what the difference was. If you internalize a feeling, you hang on to it. You hang on to that thing like it is your life force. You hang on to it. If you're processing the feeling, you're going to feel the feeling. You're going to figure out where it's coming from, address what it's trying to make you feel and why you feel that way, and then you're going to release it in whatever form that takes. You're going to just release that feeling. And for some people, it takes a little while to get to that point. And there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you're learning how to process and release the feeling. Because if we hold too much of that inside and we internalize everything, it's going to come out in ways we don't want it to. And it could come out in ways like fighting with somebody you care about. It could come out in ways of just nothing good, essentially, will come from you internalizing the feelings that you're having during moments like this. I also think that there's a lot to be said about allowing yourself to take the time that you need, whatever capacity that takes, in the form of a self-care day, a self-care moment. You know, if you have to function that day, if you have to go to work, you've got to get the kids to school, you've got to live your life as if it were a normal day, it's important for you to take even that moment for a self-care check-in. How am I feeling today? What can I do with these feelings? You know, is there a moment in the day where I can say, I need 5 minutes? And then you go and you do whatever it is that you need to do for those 5 minutes. I think there's a lot to be said about that too. About finding those moments if you're not able to take a full day. Finding those moments and being able to go through those feelings. And what's also important is to recognize that self-care in moments like this is not you running away from your feelings. It's not. It's actually the opposite. It's allowing yourself to feel the feelings as intensely as you are, and sitting with yourself and saying, I'm going to take care of myself today, and I'm going to make sure that I'm safe and that I can work through whatever I need to work through, and this will help me in order to move forward in life. And I think that that's important on days like that, especially the first one, because the first one, you know, there are so many intense feelings around moments like this in our lives that either, you know, we feel immediately, or we stuff down and internalize, and then on that first anniversary, they come knocking on your door again, and this time you can't ignore them because you don't have the distraction of whatever the event was to, you know, have you deal with those things later. You know, when I first started seeing a therapist, we were talking about, you know, the deaths that I've experienced in my family. And I said to her, you know, obviously I cried and did everything like that when these things happened, but I never actually processed any of it. I just went through it. I said, because I was in school, I was trying to find a job, I was, all the background noise of life was happening during all of these things. And she said to me, you never processed it. You never went through the motions or the steps that you needed in order to actually process it. So now you're going to process it. And I've spent more than one therapy session processing deaths that I've experienced in my family years after they've happened, because I internalized everything at the time. See, because of all the background noise of life. And I did what I had to do, and I remember saying to myself, I will deal with this later. That phrase, I will deal with this later, not a great not a great phrase. Not a great phrase, not a great state of mind. Because what you're telling yourself in that moment is that you don't have time to feel things. And that is a lie that we sell ourselves. That way we can function, right? You lie to yourself. I don't have time to feel this right now. I'll deal with this later. I don't have time to XYZ. I will XYZ later. Except later never really comes, does it? It never really does. It's on that cosmic to-do list that one day you will get to, or not. And when we look at the anniversary dates of these things, and we allow ourselves to have those self-care moments, it is us processing what happened. And I'm not saying that you're going to process everything in one day. That's not realistic. You're not going to process everything one day. There are some events in my life that I am still processing, and they took place 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I'm still processing them. There are still some things that when I think about them, I have to figure out what the feelings are that I'm still having about these things, and processing them and working through them. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. And that's not something that's going to be fixed with self-care. But what self-care does is it gives you that open space to be able to feel and process those feelings in whatever way makes sense to you to take care of yourself that day. And I've also found, now this is just me speaking from experience, speaking from my own opinions. I've found that when I'm having a full self-care day, when I wake up and I take myself out and I remove myself from my home for the day, what ends up happening is, yes, I'm processing, because we just talked about you're going to process those feelings. But at the same time, they're not all I'm thinking about either, in a healthy way. I go to the mall and I go, oh, that's a really cool Funko Pop. Do I want it? And I'll sit there for a minute trying to decide whether to buy the thing or not. 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to buy it. But it's cool to have in my hand. And we take those moments, we take that day, and we listen to the music as loud as we can, and we do what we need to do in order to process those things. And when I get home from being out for the day, I feel more focused. I feel like I can take a breath that, at the time I probably didn't realize I was even holding. And I allow myself to move on, and I kind of come back into myself. I go back on social media, I reconnect with my friends, I do what I need to do in order to keep going forward. But without taking that self-care step and trying to treat the day like it's a normal day, I'm very much so disconnected then. I very much so take myself emotionally, mentally out of the day. There are days that you're just not all there. That's what that feeling is. When I say that you're not fully present, it's that feeling of just being 5 steps behind where you're supposed to be all day. And having that self-care day, that self-care moment where you take a breath and you allow yourself to slow down, and you allow yourself to maybe disconnect for a little while. And, as they say, go touch grass. You allow yourself to go touch grass and feel the breeze and things like that. It would astound and amaze you how much clearer you come back into yourself, and you realize that you can move forward with whatever else you need to do, because now you are so much clearer. It's amazing what good self-care will do. And I think that in doing that, you are honoring the day. Whatever feelings come up, whatever happens, you are still honoring the day in your own way. And as I said, no two people will do this the same way. But whatever way you do it, I hope that you find the peace, the inner peace, the contentment, and the absolute zen that a self-care day can bring. And on that note, if you guys liked the episode, if you have any thoughts or feelings or want to start a conversation about anything you've heard in today's episode or any episode, like, comment, subscribe on Spotify, like, comment, subscribe to our Instagram and YouTube channels, connect directly with me through Instagram or YouTube. I would love to hear from you. And until next time, I hope that you all have an absolutely wonderful, wonderful week. Until next time, guys. Bye.